Toldos. We are in the third reading. We continue in the narrative. This is now we're going to learn about Yitzchak and kind of what he was into, if you will. All right, Vayigdal, and he became great is the literal translation. Here, the context means he prospered. Ha'ish, the man. Vayelech, and he went. Halech, and continued. Like he went and went. He went. Begadol, and increased. Became great. Ad gadol ma'od, until very big, right? Meaning wealthy. Ad gadol ma'od, Rashi. Again, what I'm trying to do is help you with the language. Are you following the language? So you can learn it, the language at the same time. 13, he called them, he became very great. For they would say, called Pir Daisav Shel Yitzchak, all of the manure of the mules of Yitzchak, and all the silver and the gold was of Avimelech. In other words, why does it say he became very great, extreme wealth? Right. Sorry. Okay, in other words, they would say that the manure of Yitzchak from his mules was more valuable than Avimelech's silver and gold. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Verse 14. Maybe you let in, please. 14. Vayihi loy, and it was to him miknei tzayin, cattle, herds of flocks of sheep, miknei vakar, and cattle of oxen, ba'avuda rabba, and he translates over here many enterprises. V'ikano Isai Plishtim, and the Plishtim, the Philistines, envied him. Rashi, Avuda Rabba, he had much. Avuda means avoda, like service, meaning enterprise. For Ula Rabba, much work. Veloshan Laz, in Old French, Ovrein. Avoda, mashma avoda achas. Avoda denotes one kind of task. Avuda, mashma v'ula Rabba, but avuda means a variety of work. Just showing us in the word. Okay, 15. And all of the wells, asher chofru, that they dug. Chofar means to dig. Avdei Aviv, the servants of his father. Who's his father? B'yemei Avraham, in the days of Avraham. Aviv, his father. Interesting. It says twice father there, right?
It's the person. It
says twice in the verse. Aviv, father. Doesn't seem like Rashi picks up on it. Okay. Stimum, they closed them, Plishtim, the Philistines, v'yimolim afar, and they filled it with earth. So in other words, everything that Avram did in his father, Yitzchak's father, right? The wells that his servants dug, the Philistines, they filled them up. They were jealous. Rashi, remember? Jealousy leads you to doing not nice things. Yeah, stumim up, the police team, the Philistines filled them up or stopped them up, really. Because they said, they gave a good rationalization. It's an obstacle for us. There's you might slip and fall inside. Because of the armies that come against us. Mitagimim is Timunim Pelishtoya Loshen Stima. Onkelos explains it as closing up. A Loshen Mishnah in the language of the Mishnah, find a word related to Tamoinim. Mitamtim is a lave, it stops up the heart. Just showing that the word means to stop it up, meaning to close it up. Right. Because it's an obstacle, because invading armies always want a ready water supply, right? Huh. Okay, interesting. Okay, 16. But Yomer Avimelech said, El Yitzchak to Yitzchak, Lech, go, Mimanu from us. Because you have become Atzum, powerful, Mimenu much more, so much more powerful than we. You're too powerful. Yitzchak went from there. They want to start up with him. And he encamped in the valley of Grar, and he dwelt there. Far away from the city. Okay. 18. Yashav Yitzchak and Yisha, and he returned, meaning he redug, v'yachbor, and he dug, as be'eris hamayim, the well springs of water, asher chofra b'mei Avraham, that they were dug in the days of Abraham, Aviv, his father. V'yistim the Plishtim, and the Plishtim closed them up, achri meis Avraham, after the passing of Avram, v'yikra lahem shemes, and he called them names. He gave names to these wells, as the names that his father had called them. Rashi v'yashav v'yachbar. Rashi says that he returned and dug. Habe'eres asher chafru, the wells that were dug, b'yimei Avram Aviv, in the days of Avram his father, or Plishtim Stimum, and the Philistines, they stopped them up. Before Yitzhak traveled from Gerar, Chazer v'Chofram, he redug them. Before he went away from Gerar. Okay. Okay. On the table. The Yachbaru Avde Yitzchak ben Achal. And they dug, the servants of Yitzchak ben Achal, in the valley, right? Another place, in other words. V'yimtzu sham be'er mayim chayim. And they found there a fresh spring of water. Okay, now what happened? V'yarivu. And they quarreled. Roye Gerar, the shepherds of Gerar, Im Roye Yitzchak, with the shepherds of Yitzchak, Lamor, saying, Lanu amayim, this is our water. V'yikra Shema be'er, and he called the name of the wellspring, right? Asik, he called it Asik, which, as he says, he's asku imai, because we contended with him. In other words, there was contention there, right? Contending with the two groups of shepherds. Rashi, Asik, Irur. Rashi says it means literally dispute. That's what it means over here. It literally means the affairs of. But in context, it means here the dispute. Kis asku imay. Shenis asku imay aleha. That the Plishtim, they engaged in strife and dispute, right? Right. What would New York Times and the CNN report? You there's division and contention between two camps. No, there isn't. Because they contended with him, right? That would be what we call fake news. The verse is saying very clearly over here that the Philistine shepherds, they contended, right? They were making the trouble, making dispute. 21. V'yachberu be'er acheris. Well, so what did they do? They dug other wells. And they quarreled also over them. V'yikra shma sitna. And he called it Yitzchak sitna. Sitna meaning harassment, as he says over here. Sitna, in Old French, nous amons. Nous amons. Nashimit. Nous amons. Yatek Misham, and he moved from there. V'yachbor be'er acheres, and he dug another well. And they did not quarrel over it. V'yikrashma rachayves, and they called it rachayves, meaning plenty, open space. And he said, Ki ata, for now, Hirchiv Hashem lanu farina ba'aretz. Hashem has Hirchiv. He made plenty, meaning ample space. Hashem lanu for us farina ba'aretz, and we will flourish in the land materially. Rashi ufarina ba'aretz. So he says v'nifush targumai should be understood according to Targum's Uncle's translation, Nifush Ba'ara, that we shall expand in the land. Let's see some of the Rebbe's thoughts on this.
The reason why the two first times he was being harassed, and the third time in Rehoboth they left him alone, is because the two first time he was making a permanent dwelling in the place. The verb that's used in Hebrew is someone who installs himself. And the third time,
What? Say that again?
so the word that's used in Hebrew when he settled there is a permanent settlement. And when he made a permanent settlement, they disputed him. But the third time, he made a temporary settlement, meaning like Abraham, he was just passing by like with a tent, then they didn't bother him anymore.
You're right. It says in 18, V'yoshev Yitzchak, that he dwelt. Yoshev is like more of a sense of permanence, exactly. And in verse 22, V'yatek Misham, he moved from there. Yatek is like a less permanent statement. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's when they left him alone. Meaning that was the root of the problem.
Shkoyach. So in verse 19, it says that Yitzchak's servants, they dug in the valley of Gerar, and they found fresh spring water. So the Rebbe says that there's a hint over here in the service of God. In Likutei Torah from the Alter Rebbe writes that the beginning of one's divine service every day, preparation for prayer, for Shacharis, it includes three things that in preparation for prayer: to remove all things that prevent you from prayer, right? Which part of it would mean relieve yourself if you need to use the facilities, right? Shut off your, shut off all, things that are a deterrent to davening. That's the first thing. Then give tzedakah. That's it. And then going to the mikvah to purify you and learning words of Torah. So the Rebbe says we can learn these three things from the Avos, from the three Avos. Tzedakah we learn from Avram, as it says about Avram in Parshas Vayera, that Hashem loved him because he did tzedakah mishpat. He did charity and law. And the main thing of Avram was dealing with acts of loving kindness. Going to the mikvah, we learn from Yitzchak, because he dealt with the digging of wells, right? And that's the idea of Gvura, to overcome the impurities of an individual, to overcome them. That's the idea of mikvah. That's what Yitzchak is. And to learn, we learn from Yaakov. It says about him in the parsha, right, that he's Ish Tam, Yeshiv Oyalim. He is a complete, pure individual who sits in the tents and learns. So after these three things comes prayer itself. As Shebnei Israel, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, Yehuda, Remzim, L'Kriya Shema, Lishman Esrei. How so? So Reuven means to see godliness. Shimon means to hear. So that's the first chapter of the Shema. Shimon is to hear. That's the second chapter of the Shema. Levi means to escort. So from there you get escorted. Emes v'yatziv, 15 terms of and then Yehuda, which is acknowledgement, bittul, self-nullification, total self-nullification as we come to the Amida. Wow. Interesting. Got that? Now, there is a sikha from the Rebbe. I learned it many years ago. In the last Doesn't bring it down over here. It says Farina Ba'aretz and flourished in the land. And he brings from the Targum Onkelos Nifush Ba'ara, expand in the land. So the question is, what is Rashi giving more understanding that we don't have without him saying what he says? Seems to be just a simple translation. What is he adding? So I don't remember now because I learned it many years ago. Now let's go for a moment to the beginning of the parsha and see a sichon there. So here, Ela told us Yitzchak. Go back to Sunday, the first verse. Right? These are the descendants of Yitzchak, ben Avram, the son of Avram. Right? Of Avram, Hoylidis Yitzchak. And Avram gave birth to Yitzchak, right? So Rashi, in the first Rashi, Ela told us Yitzchak. These are the descendants of Yitzchak. And he says, Yaakov, Esav, Amurim, Baparsha. This is Yaakov and Esav, who are mentioned later in the section, right? Because right away, it doesn't go into the descendants. Right? It goes into that Yitzchak was 40 years old. He married Rivka, right? And that she prayed because she was barren. And then she conceived and had a child, right? Children, twins. So that's why it doesn't go into descendants. So Rashi is saying, right, hey, don't think that, it's about Yaakov and Esav who are later in the parsha, right? So the Ramban, Nachmanides, not Maimonides, who lived, I don't know, 100 and something years after Rashi, he says something similar, but he changes a bit. He says these are the generations of Yitzchak, right? Esav and Yaakov that are said below. Rashi says that are said in the section, and he says lamata, what is said below. Also, he changes the order. Rashi says first Yaakov and then Esav. Ramban says Esav and then Yaakov. Got it?
No, what are you talking about?
How many fingers do I have up? Okay. So look this way, and you get it. It's very simple. The Ramban says a similar statement to Rashi, but with two changes. Rashi says Yaakov and then Esav in the Parsha. The Ramban says Esav and Yaakov, right? That's one change. Second change is he says Hamurim Parsha that are said in the Parsha, in the Torah portion, right, in the section. And he says the Ramban Lamata, below, that are mentioned below. Okay, that's it. Simple. Okay. So the Rebbe explains that the two differences flow one from the other. Right. We know that Esav is born before Yaakov, right? However, the formation of Yaakov comes before the formation of Esav. Yaakov, huh?
Last step.
Exactly. Right. As explained, the Yaakov and Esav, they hint to the good inclination and the evil inclination. The evil inclination of Esav reveals itself before, right? However, in their root source, in spiritual root source, the good inclination, Yaakov, comes first. Got that? So that's why Yaakov is in first, because in his source, the Yetzer Tov, the good, precedes the bad part of us. But in a revealed way, in actual birth, right, our evil inclination is revealed first, right? A child cries, they're crying not for anybody else, but for themselves, right? A child is only completely self-centered, right? That's a Yetzer Hara, not a Yetzer Tov, right? Right. So according to this, we can explain. The Ramban, who's speaking in the order the way things are revealed in this world, and therefore he uses the word lamata, below, right? This world is below the spiritual world. He uses that term. Therefore, he puts Esav before Yaakov, right? Because the way it is down here below, an actual order of things is the animal soul will reveal itself first before the godly soul, before the good, the Yetzer Tov, right? Rashi, on the other hand, who in his teachings there is the hidden message, he's dealing with the way they are in their root source. And the way they are in their root source, right? Hashkafas HaTorah. In other words, from the perspective of Torah, not the perspective of life. Life is lamata, down here. That's a Ramban. But hamurim b'Torah, hamurim b'parsha, there I said it in the Torah portion. I mean, that's the perspective of Torah. The perspective of Torah, Yaakov is first because the Yetzer Tov comes first. Wow. Got it? And a couple of simple words, how the Rebbe learns, unbelievable.
In the Zohar, it says that when a boy gets to the age of 13, that's when the good soul enters the body.
Right.
But for that soul to enter in the body, it takes 7 years, meaning until the age of 20.
To be more fully revealed. Yeah.
Fully integrated into the body.
Right.
So that's why, from the perspective of heaven, you're only responsible at the age of 20.
Right.
And from the perspective of people on earth, they think you're responsible at 13, but we don't go by that.
Well, you're responsible to take personal commitment in Torah mitzvahs, but for the lack of being committed, meaning the punishment that would come because of the lack of commitment, only is fully you're only fully responsible at 20 when your Yetzer Tov comes fully in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the bad activity should have a head start for 13 years. Almost 20 years. So the fact that
It's what surrounding. It's there from birth.
Yeah.
There's some surrounding. Not integrated.
The good is not good.
Not integrated.
Yeah.
But it's there. But when you hear from before, then you're born.
So let's do another thought over here. So in the first verse of the parsha, so the end of the verse, it says Avram Halidis Yitzchak, that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. And Rashi explains, if you recall, because the mockers of the generation were saying that Sarah gave birth was impregnated from Avimelech. Remember, she was also taken not only by Pharaoh, but by Avimelech, right? So what did God do? He made the appearance of Yitzchak's face to be similar to Avram. Therefore, there was, it was everybody witnessed the fact that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. So the Rebbe says, from the term that the language of Rashi, they say, Masa Kodesh Baruch Hu. What did God do? Right? And also from the Lashon of the Gemara, the Talmud, that immediately he transformed the facial image of Yitzchak to be similar to Avram. It sounds like there had to be a special effort from God in order to make the two of them look similar. This needs explanation, because in Derech HaTeva, the natural way is often that the son will look like his father. So why there has to be a special effort over here? A special effort. It's natural. It sounds like God went beyond nature to make Yitzchak look like Avram. Why? So the reason is, generally speaking, when a son looks like his father, is because the facial image is an expression of the soul image. In other words, the makeup of the soul. Right? In other words, that the son is similar to his father in the makeup of his soul. However, Avram and Yitzchak, they were complete opposites in their soul makeup. Avram was from the side of Chesed v'Ava, of kindness and love, as the verse says, Avram Oyavai, my beloved. Yitzchak, on the other hand, he was from the left side of Gvura and Yira, Pachad Yitzchak, the fear of Yitzchak. He was from the left side of discernment and fear and awe. Therefore, naturally, in a natural way, Yitzchak and Avram should have not looked like each other, because they were not like each other in their soul. Right? And therefore, it was transformed the image of Yitzchak, his face, to be that of Avram. According to this, now we can answer some of the questions that commentators have. Why does the Torah hint over here to the scoffers and mockers of the generation in Parshas Toldos, which is speaking about Yitzchak and his offspring and it's his story now, right? Should be in Parshas Vayera, which is speaking about the birth of Yitzchak. Why is it here? Right? Avram's already passed away. So it doesn't seem to fit over here. Right? That's what some of the commentaries bring up. So the explanation is based on what we learned. The claim of the mockers of the generations, those who were scoffers, comes mainly because of the distinction between Yitzchak and Avram in the makeup of their soul, makeup of who they are. And this claim would only come about primarily in our parsha, because over here it speaks about the life of Yitzchak and his avodah and his offspring. And in that, it becomes now recognizable the difference between him and Avram. Therefore, where's the place to negate this claim would be over here when Avram is Yitzchak in that phrase. Right? It's only over here is he engaged in digging wells. Did Avram dig well? Avram dug wells. Does the Torah tell us about that? No. I mean, in passing. But here it's a big thing over here. Why is it a big thing? Because digging wells is like digging deep inside of yourself. That's gvura. That's strength. That's the left side. Ava, chesed. Avram was focused on others and bringing them closer to Hashem. Acts of loving kindness towards them. right? Always seeking wayfarers to feed them, to help them. So they're completely different. How do we know they're completely different? Only in this parsha we see what he engages in. So we know more about him. Therefore, it's over here that Torah will, make that claim, or the scoffers will make the claim, or this explanation is given here. Yeah.
The same issue happened when Rivka saw the Yitzhak in the far. She almost fell off the camel.
Right.
And she said to Eliezer, "Who is that?" And Eliezer said, "This is my master," meaning like she saw on his face Gevura, and she felt this is not what was described to her, because he was emphasizing the qualities of Abraham, Eliezer, not the qualities of Yitzhak. And she felt that was not correct. So Eliezer said, "No, under that face, there is the same heart of gold. There is the chesed of the father is still there." So that's why her reaction was to cover her face with the veil, because it's like if he's hiding his true self inside, then I'm gonna hide myself as well. That's all clear.
Go ahead. And one last thought with me. So here we speak about Leitzane Ador, the mockers, the scoffers of the generation, right? And what they said that, that the child came from Avimelech. In Parshat Vayera, Rashi says over there, he says over there that the important princesses and princes, they claimed concerning Yitzchak that Sarah did not give birth, but there was an Asufi, no, a child that was left in the street. And someone gave birth and just left the child in the street, and they brought him from the market, so to speak. So Hashem made a miracle, and on the day of celebration, all of the princesses brought their children, and she nursed them. Right? That was in Parshat Vayera, if you recall. And here, so there it was about the princesses, and here it's about the mockers. What's the distinction? So the princesses was basically a mocker. They were making their claim against Sarah that she was too old to be able to bear a child. In reference to Avram, though, it was also, wondrous in their eyes. Oh, sorry. it was not so wondrous in their eyes because Avram already gave birth at 86 to Ishmael. So therefore, when it came to Avram, it was only the mockers. In other words, it wasn't real people, authentic. It was just mockers are looking. They're looking for something, right? Yeah, they have not. They have not. They got nothing of a life, so they gotta find something to make a mockery of. So they said, "Oh, okay, yeah." So it was Avimelech. In other words, they knew that he could give birth because he did already at an old age. They said, no, no, it's not him, it's Avimelech. Therefore, God made it, Yitzchak's face look like Avram. That everybody should recognize, including the scoffers, that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. But when it came to Sarah, they were serious. I guess, they didn't see her, I guess, pregnant, and they just see a child, and they, how could this be possible? So in reference to her, they said it can't be. And it was only the princesses. And that became settled because she nursed them, their children. All right, see you in a moment.
You can make a huge difference. Our annual matching campaign, matching every donation dollar for dollar.
Thank you.